In 2009, with the support of a small clan of followers, mostly consisting of her family members, Meraz selected her first victim, Cleotilde Romero Pacheco.
Für dich eingesetzt habe, dass ich anständig meine Zeit verwende.
Teenagers across America are playing with a new and frightening game, Satanism.
I feel so far under satanic power and satanic control.
Glenn Helzer. Self-proclaimed prophet Glenn Helzer founded a religious sect in the 1990s known as the Children of Thunder. Part of the group's mission involved a grand scheme to take over the Mormon Church.
Taylor felt he would be a better leader of the Mormon Church.
By doing so, Helzer convinced his followers they would bring about the second coming of Christ.
So Glenn Helzer came up with this idea that he was a prophet.
To finance his plan, Helzer needed to acquire plenty of money, so he enlisted his followers to carry out a murderous extortion plot that resulted in the brutal slaying of people.
To reassure them, Taylor explains that there's no danger.
It didn't take long for authorities to connect the killings to the group. In August 2000, Helzer was arrested and later sentenced to death.
You, Obama, have yet again, through your actions, killed yet another American citizen.
Reports right now that ISIL has beheaded the second American journalist, Stephen Sotloff.
I was at the White House briefing when one of my colleagues announced to the press secretary, Josh Earnest, that the gentleman had in fact been killed.
So just as your missiles continue to strike our people, our knife will continue to strike the necks of your people.
This, excuse me, evil man seems to be a Brit. Some say he's a DJ, they even know his name, but it may be very hard to find him. The United States and Great Britain are basically seen as the same enemy by these jihadists, by these radical jihadists. Message, and it's the same goal, is to frighten and terrify people in the West. There are possibly jihadists here in the United States waiting for a call, waiting for a universal call. It could be anything, where they will then proceed to do the kinds of things that they have done before. You remember the shoe bomber. Remember the individual who shot and killed people at Fort Hood, who now wants to become a jihadist, who wants to become part of ISIL. It's a very complicated and very complex situation. Do I think it's inevitable that there may be some form of a terrorist attack in Great Britain or in the US, coordinated universally, let's say by ISIL, by the leadership, by Mr. Baghdadi, to signal individuals who are standing by in those two countries to perform some sort of evil attack? Sure. Okay, these are barbarians. Okay, I hate to use those words. They sound ancient and they sound maybe a little bit racist. I don't mean it to be that way. But these individuals are murderers. And if you don't adhere to their exact way, their exact method, their exact religious belief, I mean, they'll use anything as a ploy, as a PR tool, as a handle to get people in to join them. So but they want the destruction. They're really into the destruction of the societies that we know. If you know the enemy, you set out to get him. Hitler, whomever, Saddam Hussein, Osama bin Laden. So it's hard to find them. It's easier to cut the head off a snake, but if it's a 700-headed snake, it's going to be a lot more difficult to go around cutting each one of those heads, and especially if they're in your own country and they live down the street.
Jeffrey Lundgren. Known for his controversial scripture interpretations, Jeffrey Lundgren led a small group of fervent followers in Kirtland, Ohio during the late 1980s.
Members of that community referred to him as their prophet.
The group's ultimate goal was to seize control of the historic Kirtland Temple, the first LDS temple constructed in the U.S. Lundgren required obedience from his followers, eventually insisting that they financially support him and live with him at his farmhouse.
Seemed to be the best kept secret in town. I still think it is, probably maybe in the nation.
When the Avery family refused to make the move, Lundgren decided to punish them. He lured all 5 members of the family to the barn on his property, where they were killed one by one.
And I said, if you will go in that barn and look where I told you to look, I said, you will find bodies.
Lundgren was later apprehended and sentenced to death. On October 24, 2006, he was executed by the state of Ohio for his crimes.
Among the 2,819 liberated Auschwitz inmates, there were 180 children. 52 of them were under 8 years of age. How could they survive this hell? They managed to survive because they were wanted for medical research instead of mice and rabbits. But the German murderers with medical degrees were only keen on a particular kind of children. They wanted to experiment on twins. Twins were the special research material. Dr. Mengele and Dr. Schmidt, children who did not belong to that category, were simply murdered. The infants were known by the numbers on their little hands.
Dann tritt für mich ein, so wie ich für dich eingetreten bin.
Sylvia Meraz, born into poverty in Hermosillo, Zamora, Mexico. Sylvia Meraz lived an unremarkable life for many years.
The Meraz family lived in makeshift shacks on the outskirts of town, without electricity or water.
But when she became convinced she could gain favor from Santa Muerte through human sacrifice, things took a sinister turn.
Sylvia believed the bony lady could protect her family and bring them peace and prosperity.
In 2009, with the support of a small clan of followers, mostly of her family members, Meraz selected her first victim, Cleotilde Romero Pacheco.
Once the deed was done and the dirt tamped down, Sylvia faced a profound question. Would Santa Muerte deliver on their requests?
She then proceeded to make 2 more human sacrifices, both of them lived. When a missing person report was filed for one of the victims, police narrowed in on Meraz. She was apprehended in 2012, sentenced to 100 years in prison.